coming and destroy those who are in the way of them receiving the glory that they desire for themselves.
That's right.
And so Shimei saw David, and he saw the king coming, and he saw the despicable or the humbled state in which David was in. Because remember, he was king, and so when you think of a king, you think of a position of power. You think of someone who's in control, someone who only has to call their servants to do their bidding, and it's done.
Right.
When we think of a king, we don't think of someone who is out in the backfields trying to find a place to hide. But Shimei saw the king and saw the so-called disgraceful state in which he found himself. And he started to curse as he came forth. You see, Shimei didn't come out of the woodworks when David was sitting on the throne. Shimei didn't come and curse David when he was in the palace and when he was surrounded by his servants and things were going well for David. But Shimei came when David was at one of his lowest points in his life. Shimei came because now he sees that the king is vulnerable. He sees that he's got an opportunity to kick him while he's down, so to speak. Oftentimes, as being children of God, we find ourselves in a humbled state. We find ourselves humbled by a situation or by our surroundings. And when we find ourselves humbled and we find ourselves down, we find ourselves and we feel as if we're weak, we feel as if we can't go on, sometimes it's just at that moment that the enemy takes the opportunity to kick us while we're down. Sometimes it's just at that point when the enemy sees a prime opportunity to berate us and to throw our past in our face. And to remind us of all the things that we've done wrong, and remind us of all the ways that we've messed up, and remind us all the ways that we've fallen short of the glory of God. It seems that just at the point where we think we can't go on anymore, it seems that that's the time when the enemy comes in like a flood. Comes in to bring back to our remembrance all our past mistakes and all our failures and our faults. And it seems just when we get to the point where we can't go any lower, the enemy comes and sits on our neck. And issues curses against us. And sometimes the enemy will even use those closest to us to breathe threats. To breathe, to try and convince us that the words that the Lord has spoken were not true. Trying to convince us that we weren't meant to be in a position that the Lord has placed us. Trying to convince us that it was all just a mistake. It was just all happenstance, and now we're paying for our past mistakes. It seems that when we're at our lowest point at times, it's that time when the enemy comes to try and take advantage of us and to do away with us, to cut us off.
The liar.
The devil is a liar. But the problem is with us, sometimes we have a tendency to listen to his lies. You see, the enemy is slick and he's subtle. And he has an uncanny ability to take the truth and to twist it. He has an uncanny ability to take what looks good and what is good and just alter it ever so slightly. So that it makes you think that, you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to be here. Maybe I'm not meant to minister. Maybe I'm not meant to encourage other people. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. Maybe I can't go any further. The enemy has the ability to take the truth and to convert it just enough to make us think that maybe, just maybe, what he's saying is true. But you see, what we have to keep in mind is that just because we may be in a state we're on our faces right now, just because we may be in a situation that finds us groveling and with barely any strength to lift up our head, just because we find ourselves in a humble position now, doesn't mean that that is our end. You see, as we mentioned, this is a journey. This is not a sprint, but this is a cross-country race. And it's true that at times we may trip and fall. It's true that at times we may stumble out of situations of our own doing and find ourselves covered with mud. But there's a song that says, I'll be up again. Just you wait and see. Those rough times won't keep me down, but they will send me to my knees. See, there's something about being down in the mud. There's something about being humbled in a situation. It makes you take a look and think back and look back at previous situations, and makes you think about how you got to the place where you are.
That's right.
It makes you consider, how is it that I ended up in this place? And you start to think back. You start to look back and say, how is it that I ended up in this position? How is it that I fell flat on my face? I thought I was called of the Lord. I thought I was anointed to do a work. I'm sure King David must have wondered, how is it that I could be in this place where my own son, my own flesh and blood is seeking my own life? I thought I had things in control. I thought I'd learned enough lessons along the way to not end up in this position. David must have thought and must have wondered in his mind how he, the king, the anointed king, could end up in such a position. David must have wondered how he could have fallen to such a level and be humiliated in a sense. How he could come to the place of humility and in such a way that even his own son was seeking his life. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever had someone in your own family rise up against you. Someone that you loved, someone that you trusted, someone that you even invested in. Try to encourage, try to help them, try to teach them the right way, only to have them stab you in the back afterwards. You know, there's a saying that no one can hurt you like your kin. Why? Because they're the closest to you. They're the ones that know you best. And sometimes it's the ones that know you best that the enemy will use to bring you to your knees. Sometimes it's the people that know you and say they love you, the people that are closest to you, that the enemy will use to humble you and to humiliate you. Sometimes it's those who are closest to you, those who are even in your own house, that the enemy will come and take control of. See, we're all vessels and we'll be controlled one way or another. And if we're not controlled by the Lord, then we're controlled by the enemy. That's right. And if we are not filled with the Lord and not being directed by his steps, then we are the children of Satan. We don't like to say it, but it's true, because we are but vessels, and something must fill a vessel. And if we're not filled by the Lord, then the enemy will come and take the opportunity. And this is why it says that the Bible says that we ought to give no place to the devil. You see, when you are filled, and I thank the Lord for the message that we heard this night, when you are filled with the Lord, there's no room for anything else. When you are filled with the Lord, there's no room for the enemy to come and to take advantage of you and to use you as a pawn in his own game. But in order to be filled with the Lord, we've got to be emptied of all the junk that's in us. See, some of us have some attachment. Some of us have some deep-seated problems that we've kind of left in our vessel. There's some things, I don't know if you've ever had a pot and you burnt it really bad on the bottom, and sometimes you try and scrub it, you just can't come out, so you just leave it there, you just deal with it. Some of us have some scrubbings on the base of us that we've just left aside. We think that it's no big deal, but we've allowed ourselves to be filled with other things. We've allowed other things to occupy our vessel. We've allowed the things of this world to take a place of precedence in our vessel. And sometimes we need a humbling situation to make us recognize what is in our vessel. Sometimes we need those situations that make us fall flat on our face to recognize what is really in our vessel. Sometimes it's those very situations when those in our own house or those that are closest to it come up and curse us, that we need to recognize what is in our vessel. For you will know what is in your vessel. You will know what fills you by how you react. By how you behave. Your behavior will betray you. Because you can say all that you want. Oh, I'm a child of God and I'm royalty. I'm a child of the King and I'm walking in his ways. But when you fall flat on your face and your enemy starts to curse you, and even those in your own house start to curse you, you can tell who you are and what is in your vessel by how you respond to the situation. You can tell what you're really made of by how you respond and what your action to the situation is. For when we're of the flesh, our natural reaction is to curse back. Our natural reaction is to fight back and to defend ourselves and say, listen, I don't know who you think you're talking to. I don't know who you think you're dealing with, but I'm the child of the Most High God, so you better step back. We have a tendency to give people a piece of our mind and to tell them who we are. But I love the Lord, for he came as a perfect example for us.